Hey guys, Dan and Stef from EHE here to talk to you guys about a small disclaimer for this video.
As you know, we want to talk about the first 2 weeks of the Overwatch 2 beta, and we are well aware that there has been patches and a lot of changes, but we just want to do this disclaimer so you understand the rest of the context of the video.
And that all the submissions that came from our viewers came directly for these first 2 weeks of the beta.
So, knowing all this, we'll go straight to the video. See you then.
We know that there's a lot of stuff you guys want to hear about the game, but we should first talk about the map changes that took place in the beta. Overwatch 2 introduces a new dynamic lighting engine. This new lighting system allows for faster map development and more variations in maps look and feel. It's clear that the lighting engine from the environment allows for benefits to both the PvE as well as the spectator esport. Sadly, the lighting preset shown in the beta doesn't appear to be production ready, leading to the perceived staleness only a week into it. This sparked a community job stating that Overwatch 2 took place 6 hours from the original. Even though that might be the case, some members of the community have liked the change, since it shows that the new engine added to the game is beautiful in its own right, even in the lowest settings.
The change to 5v5 came as a surprise to everyone involved with the Overwatch community way back in 2021, and even though a lot of people rejected it flat out, others were more welcoming to its new feature. And after a couple of weeks in the beta, the results are in, and boy is there a division. Players' opinions on this change are extremely diverse, some welcoming 5v5 as it keeps the core of Overwatch as a team-based game, with more coordination and more punishing windows to win a fight, while others maintain that this is an absolute mistake, claiming that tanks are unkillable, supports are just heal bots, and DPS characters are mere cannon fodder used to push through an objective. Some players have pointed out that if just one person doesn't do its job, the match is more likely to become a steamroll, essentially making the game unfun, and that some characters were made for a 6v6 experience, and the change to 5v5 made some characters just worse to play. On the other end of the spectrum, some players like the changes, claiming there are more windows of opportunity when it comes to matches, resulting in a faster pace and a stronger feeling of impact on every game. Also, many hero changes highlighted changes in Blizzard's design philosophy, seemingly preferring unorthodox plays that creates chaos and encourage players to think outside of the box. Overall, whether you love or hate it, 5v5 has left a huge impact in how people perceived and play the game. But widely varying opinions creates discussions and generates plenty of much needed feedback for the development team, no matter what an individual's stance may be. While many players still are focused on the change to 5v5, others are discussing the new characters models in Overwatch 2, or that would be the case if there were any changes. Despite updated icons for some, the characters in beta are retaining their original models from the first game, disappointing a lot of returning players as these changes are the oldest teased by Blizzard. Once again, opinions regarding the UI and overall aesthetics of the beta are all over the place. Some players believe that the new aesthetics are cleaner and more pleasing to the eye compared to the UI of Overwatch 1, but others have mentioned that it's too minimalistic. It is important to keep in mind that the beta for Overwatch 1 had a very similar aesthetic before release, and this design philosophy is nowhere close to production. A new addition to the beta was the new ping system, which is accessed through the mouse wheel. Its implementation has received mixed responses from the competitive and casual players alike. Some state that the sound of the ping is too quiet, and that the quick ping versus the keybinds are slower when compared. This is a feature that will definitely be useful, but since many players don't know how to use it, it doesn't change much, at least for now.
The new mode where you push Rigoberto the robot in the middle of the map has been one of the highlights of the beta, but it doesn't come without some criticism. Some praise the mode for being a breath of fresh air for the franchise, while others claim that it's a little unfair, since the mode prioritizes on flanking rather than the classic brawls we're used to seeing in the original game. To quote one of our contributors, he says, "I feel at this time, in some cases, if one team gains a substantial lead at the start, it's challenging for an opponent to come from behind. It puts the players in a position that they need to win multiple fights in a row to remotely recover." With all that in mind, the maps are definitely well constructed, allowing players to play the match in very unique ways, and makes us wonder how the dev team will make more maps in this mode. The Overwatch 2 beta has given us many diverse changes regarding character balancing, and players' opinions are mixed to an even higher degree. Tanks are considered unkillable by some, while others consider them to be nicely balanced. Opinions on tanks should be taken with a grain of salt though, as this role has changed the most out of the three, like the addition of Doomfist as a tank in an effort to incentivize DPS players to take a stab at tanking as well. Damage characters have long been fan favorites for a good reason, and we swear it has nothing to do with the fact that this class has taken 60% of the roster hostage. DPS has been considered the most fun and most diverse role in Overwatch, and frankly, we don't see this changing in the beta. The 50% increase in movement speed to DPS characters is a welcome distinction between classes. Most players overall seem to be satisfied with the DPS class, albeit with some complaints. The most popular qualm we heard was that a total of 5 characters weren't changed at all. These characters being Genji, Pharah, Soldier, Symmetra, and Torbjorn. It's weird that people want change from Symmetra. Finally, we arrive at supports. There are many articles stating that supports have been shafted in the beta, with some of our contributors claiming that it became one of the hardest roles, since 1. They didn't get any meaningful changes, 2. Since it's 5v5 now, the lack of an off-tank peeling forces more 1v1 scenarios against flanking DPS characters. And 3. Players have to be constantly healing their team without fail. With a raised skill floor due to more mechanical demand and an increase in thinking on your feet, we see how there may be players that might feel a little overwhelmed by the sudden increase in demand from the role. Despite the numerous changes made around supports, many of the changes feel lesser and remain net neutral. Supports remain essentially the same as they were in the first game, and we can't help but feel that these complaints stem from the lack of significant changes to the role like they did with the others.
Now, let's talk about specific character changes. Let's start with Sojourn. Sojourn is a new kid on the block, so we have a lot to talk about her. Since release, some players have stated that Sojourn would be more useful for slower comps in order to easily farm her charge shot from shields before flanking. While some still believe this claim to be true, others believe that Sojourn is irrelevant in most team compositions aside from Sigma-based comps. Sojourners will most definitely farm charge off the opposing tank while staying back with her supports, then leaving the tank's flank to a forward DPS such as Tracer or Genji. In the event a flanker pressures support, Sojourn can threaten the invader with a high charge headshot without immediately using her important grenade. Proper utilization of angles on Sojourn should force cooldowns from the enemy tank, giving enough focus fire, earning either space or a more advantaged fight. Sojourn's grenade is a monster, but less so to DPS characters and Lucio comps as they have a speed increase. Using the grenade defensively is a last resort if you can't mail or scare a position. Sojourn's grenade is very effective with controlling the frontline, making it a valuable resource for potential flankers to drain. Don't use this if you don't have to use it. Sojourn's amazing leg movement are to be used to set up positioning during the setup phase of fights, proactively keep up with supports, peeling back and forth between frontline and backline, and kiting when the enemy eventually gives in and gets a frog. Now, let's talk about Roadhog. While everyone's favorite unit of a character has seen better days, players have grown wary of the little piggy's potential as a lone tank, since it lacks shields and other things necessary to be useful in specific fights, to the point of some players stating that Roadhog is the worst character in the beta. But since release, other players have seen Roadhog as a character full of potential that could make for a new breed of tanks. In a 5v5 scenario, losing a teammate due to a Roadhog hook is 10 times more alarming than in 6v6. And players have capitalized on this by playing the pick as flanking and tanking out of the backline alongside DPS. It's certainly jarring to play a tank this way, but we'll see how it shapes up in the future. Now, Orisa. In the spectrum of changes, many players have come to unanimously pick Orisa as the winner of the Overwatch 2 beta, turning a straightforward hero into a boss of a character that seems to be able to do everything as a tank, and we haven't even seen a single player to think otherwise. Now, in the case of Soldier, he has come out a lot in our submissions, with many players saying that he's way too strong and borderline unfair, and we agree to the fact that the character is way stronger, and that the adjustments to DPS characters definitely benefited him the most out of the attackers. We'll see if he stays like that on release. We could do a full rundown on every single character change, but To be honest, it could take a while to just go through them all. There are a lot of changes, like for example Bastion changes to have a mobile turret, or changes that are a little bit minimal, for example the change of the core of how a character plays, like Junkrat's changes to the grenades. Hey guys, so we know that there has been some recent patches in which like apparently now Zenyatta can kick you into the next match, and like Mercy never skipped leg day apparently, and now she can jump 20 feet in the air, but please don't tell our editor, because he kind of drove himself crazy doing all the changes. During the past couple of weeks, the Overwatch 2 beta has been in the mouth of various media outlets, players, social media, and especially various content creators with a strong relationship with Overwatch. And hearsay has been mixed to say the least. Universally, players are looking forward to the PvE more than anything, hoping that it might pump the new life into the franchise.
While the crowd control purge is a welcome change, allowing some characters to become more viable than before, since they can survive and fight for longer without eating 6 tons per minute, we also believe they may have gone a tad overboard. For example, Brick severely needs her stun back, both for her sake and those who have been nerfed in turn to compensate.
The beta has shown promise in a lot of places, like how the new lighting system is superb on even the lowest settings, the changes to the classes, and the overall look and feel of the game has remained intact. Changing but staying almost the same in a world where change is rarely welcome due to comfort, Overwatch 2 offers change while remaining familiar to all players.
But at the same time, fans have made a clear statement. For the amount of time that we have waited since the 0-hour teaser of Overwatch 2, we've received very little. With the omission of match history, player profiles, spectator mode, new character models, any sort of demo from the PvE, and custom modes, have left many of us asking if all the dev time was put into the PvE instead of the PvP of the game. On our part, we believe there's still some stuff left for us to see in this first Overwatch 2 beta, and hopefully devs will hear about this feedback, and the community as well.